let's talk about hype, man. Why did we give this award, Eric?
It's a lot of energy guys on this team. We know who the big leader is in terms of energy in terms of Dan Campbell, and this is what you kind of need for young teams. You need those young inspirational pieces for leadership and to keep guys motivated every Sunday, especially when you're playing meaningful football down the stretch. And I think our picks are spot on for this one, actually.
All right, well, let's get to them.
Let's do it.
So before we do, Matt says Deuce, the hype man. Deuce Staley,
Okay,
running back
Deuce
coach,
Staley.
assistant head coach. Not a bad choice there. You've got
Yes,
Kirby
sir.
Joseph. I've got Dan Campbell. Fred says Aiden Hutchinson, which is another great call.
It's a good call.
Why'd you go with Kirby Joseph?
Because Kirby got a handshake with every single player on his team. If you look on social media, you see him do the flex dance with Hutch. He's got a dance with Jamal Williams where they do the Dragon Ball Z with each other in the Street Fighter thing. Like he got a dance for everybody, and he seems like he's got one of those infectious personalities that just blends in anywhere. So I love the energy that Kirby Joseph brings as a rookie. Rookie, what he's able to do. So yeah, Kirby was an easy call for me.
Kevin says Isaiah Buggs, which is a good call as well. Like Buggs played great. Another one of those free agents that I hope ends up coming back to anchor that defensive line. But for me, this was the easiest choice in the world. Aside from choosing like him to drink the Kool-Aid with, there's no other person you can put as a hype man than Dan Campbell. Just the way that might be the tweet of the year, right?
A lot of good quotables this season from the Lions.
there were, but Dan's speeches in the locker room, the vision that he's setting and saying this is where we're going, and you're either getting on the train or you're getting run over by it. Like, I'm here for it. Yeah, is he the most eloquent all the time? No, he's not. But I don't need that in a head football coach. This isn't Shakespeare. I don't need him to be Shakespeare. I don't need him to be DiCaprio. I need him to be Dan Campbell. I need him to be the biting kneecaps, tread water till we bury you, Dan Campbell. Because underneath that facade is also the genius that goes, oh, you want to jump off sides? I'll decline that penalty and make you call a timeout. So that to me is, there's no better leader for this team than Dan Campbell. And I'm here for it. We're going to talk a lot more about Dan Campbell at the end of the show.
Yes.
But as far as hype men go, you would run through a brick wall for Dan Campbell.
Kirby Joseph was on Jim Rome, and he asked him, he's like, what is it that makes Dan Campbell so infectious? And he couldn't come up with an answer, but he said everything that we've been saying. He said, I'll run through a brick wall for him. So I don't know exactly what it is, but anything that he says, I'm ready to do and fight for him, no matter anything that comes out of his mouth. So again, from where it started, because I ain't gonna lie, I was very, very worried about Dan Campbell and his quotes.
We were.
But I'm all in now. I'm all in because the players are
Here's
all
the
in.
thing, right? It's the thing about that, we talk about him being a player's coach, and he is. He's a great player's coach. Sometimes I think NFL head coaches have the curse of needing to be the smartest man in the room.
Yeah.
And you don't get that with Dan Campbell. Now, could he potentially be the smartest man in the room? Yes, I'm not attacking his intelligence, but he's got these guys playing because he's like, hey, I've been in the league. I know what it takes. Let's go. Yep. Right? And so there's no better man for the hype man than Dan Campbell.
I'm with that.
This is for Ricky. You can explain this one. The Ricky Sanders Class Clown Award.
Yeah, there were first because we love our audience. You guys are amazing.
Do.
You know, everybody for tuning in as often as you do. And for those who helped put their imprint on the season, you're just as special to the season. And Ricky was one of those guys. Came out here and jumped in the lake after the Patriots game.
Seahawks game. Because he said if they lose to the Seahawks, I would jump in the river. Yes, and he held true.
It was a depressing moment, but it was also one of the funniest of the season. So for that, Ricky, with all his commentary and his comedy as well, we had to name the Class Clown Award after Ricky said.
And his hatred of me. So that's fantastic. Yeah. But okay, so we gave the Class Clown Awards to... You said Jamal Williams, and I said T.J. Hawkinson. And there's a reason why I said TJ Hawkinson. So I'm gonna let you explain, and then I'm gonna bury TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, I'm gonna go
so
quick.
Go
I'm gonna go quick. Jamal Williams, again, one of the most spirited people on the team. His story, how much charisma he's able to have, even when he was going to like I think it was the Pack. No, it was the Bears game where he's talking trash, he's pushing one of the players back and forth, and then they end up turning it into a comedic moment because of his personality and his voice.
Yeah.
Even his voice is funny. You see him coming down the tunnel, and he's like, ah! He's like laughing like a goblin coming down. Jamal Williams is awesome, man. Love all his energy, love his personality. Gotta give him class clown for sure.
He is, and listen, I get it. I took, I understand what a class clown is for sure. I don't think TJ Hawkinson is necessarily the purest definition of a class clown, but he is the purest definition of the final word on that award, which is a clown.
Yes.
This man left Detroit, gave the, political social media post, thanks for everything, blah, 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 and then turns around and goes, it's going to be nice to go to a place where I can actually feel like I'm winning, right? I know that's not a direct quote, but it's a paraphrase. Well, let me give you some news, TJ Hawkinson. You went 7-3 over the last 10. Guess who won more games than you did over the last 10? The Detroit Lions.
That's
and
right.
Guess who also beat you when you were on that team?
That's right.
The Detroit Lions. Oh, and by the way, you also hosted a postseason game and then got beat by Danny Dimes and the New York Giants. Your team was a fraud. You are a fraud. You are a clown. And I'm glad that we traded you for the picks that we traded you for, because we sure as heck were not paying you to be on this team anymore. So, see ya, class clown.
2023 AJ coming hot.
Oh, yeah. It is time. The Louis Delmas Award. Now, this one needs a little bit of explanation. If you remember Louis Delmas from years gone by, a lot of talent, huge underachiever.
Yes.
So who is your biggest underachiever this year, Eric?
Talk to us in the comment section. I'd love to see who you guys
I would love to know too.
For sure. Mine has to go to DeAndre Swift. It has to go to Swift. You can't start off looking like the best running back in week 1, and then you fizzle out to become a rotational number 2, by mid-season. Like,
are you being fair to him though?
How's that not fair to him?
I mean, the injuries.
I mean, yeah, but we knew that was a problem. It wasn't just injuries for him. Like, he was dropping passes, like he was running laterally when he should have been hitting holes, which is something that we saw Staley coaching him during Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be him for sure. Again, I'm happy the success that he created for Jamal Williams, but we definitely expected a lot more from DeAndre in this season.
But when we needed him against Green Bay,
huge.
Towards the end of the season, he was huge. But yeah, when you come out at the beginning of the season, you go, I want to go for 1,000 yards receiving and rushing, and then you don't. That's a bit of a bit of a problem. Mine is, I think, the most obvious underachiever on this team. You go from being the top corner on the team in 2021, to being benched and should most likely be cut in this next offseason. But Amani Oruwariye, right? Just brutal. 6 penalties against the Minnesota Vikings the first time around. Oh, and then, by the way, against Green Bay, when Okudah goes down and you get put in the game, what do the Packers do? Throw a bomb to Christian Watson on your first play. That you also interfered with him, if I'm not mistaken. Like, the dude just... Like, I get it. He had one good year. Okay, great. I don't think that bought him enough of leeway for him to be back in 2023. So my Louis Delmas Award is going to Amani Oruwariye, and I don't really know who else I could have given it to.
No, I think those are good picks.
I think they are too. Levi's a good idea, but Levi was also an injury issue too. Yeah. So like, but Oruwariye was not. He couldn't cover anybody if he couldn't keep his hands off them.
He had like 5 picks last year, one of the coolest plays of the year against the Cardinals last season. Now just completely not exactly what Kevin said.
The Louis Delmas Award goes to DeAndre Swift and Amani Oruwariye.
Indeed.